You will know these two perhaps most famously from The Glenn Show, hosted by Glenn. Yes. And they often start, well, you often start that podcast by saying you are the black guys, formerly at bloggingheads.com or TV, and now just the black guys. Yeah. And you know what? I'm a black guy. Let's be black guys together. Can we do that?
Let's do that. Yes.
All right, fantastic.
It's such an effort. Yeah.
Well, I mean, that's actually a good jumping off point because being black together is not as easy as it sounds these days. There's a certain script and narrative you're supposed to abide by in academia, and if you don't abide by that, you're called things like sellouts and accused of performing Uncle Tom foolery, right? So I would like to talk about that, especially being a co-founder of Free Black Thought, which is all about viewpoint diversity among black people. So let's start it off that way. John, how have you dealt with being called a sellout?
Well, the truth is that I can't say that it's ever hurt me. It's not something that I've learned to deal with because from the very beginning, when people used to say that, I thought that's so far from anything I've ever been or thought that it's as if they're talking about some cartoon character rather than me. And my thought was just, what would make somebody think that? And very, very early on, I remember I was dealing with an ABC reporter, a black woman, very intelligent and compassionate and fun black woman, who nevertheless seemed to think that she didn't use the word sellout, but the idea was that I had written my book Losing the Race in order to make money. And I asked her, because back then, I'm like 11 years old at this point. Literally, I'm probably rounding 40. And and I wanted to know, I said, her name was Carol Simpson. I'm going to say now. She was somebody who was more prominent than she is now. But I said, Carol, you clearly think that I'm trying to make a buck in saying these things rather than that I really believe them. What is it that you think is going to happen? What do you think I'm trying for? And I meant it. And she said, she's the first person who ever said it, she said, people like you are trying to make money from conservative organizations and right-wing think tanks, and they're going to give you about $20,000 a pop, and that way you get rich. And she meant it. She looked me right in the eye. And I said, Carol, do you realize that that's not what I'm doing? And as brilliant as she was, I could just see that there was this opacity in her eyes. She couldn't see past it. And that led me to think not what a terrible person she is, how sad it is that people don't like me. I thought, why would somebody that bright actually have that vision of me? And I thought, okay, what it is that someone like her thinks that when it comes to race issues, there's only one truth. That if you're talking about, relativity or why the Revolutionary War started, or various other things, that there are many truths, but when it comes to race, there's only one. And so if somebody says something different, they must be evil. And so I thought she sequesters a part of her mind on race, and therefore, naturally, I come off as a cynical villain. That makes perfect sense. I could imagine someone thinking that way. Many of you will know that that's probably the seed of what I started calling religion in about 2015. But my thought was not that she was a terrible person, but as sure as hell wasn't me looking into myself one day while I'm rubbing lotion on my hands or something and thinking, am I a sellout? It never occurred to me. And so to this day, if somebody says that I'm a shill, I think they're talking about this cartoon character because of this limited way that so many people, unfortunately, think of as the enlightened take on race. But it's perfectly understandable, and therefore it doesn't make me mad. I want to read about my dinosaurs, and I just kind of move on.
Yes. You make a good point that otherwise intelligent people just devolve into guessing when it comes to this kind of thing. It's like they're not thinking so much as they're abiding. They're abiding by a particular narrative that they've been told and convinced is the only narrative.
And they sincerely believe that.
Yeah, and they sincerely believe it, yes. Enough about me. Glenn?
It pisses me off. The stakes are way too high. The truth of the matter is that those of us who take the risk of speaking out as best we can about these issues on race are the ones who are showing that they actually care about the well-being of quote, our people. So this move, this high-handed move of ad hominem attack, which doesn't actually bother to rebut your argument, but instead calls you a name, pisses me off. We can't afford it. If you'll allow me the first person plural here in reference to African Americans. We can't afford it. The prison's overflowing. The classroom's not functioning. The family's in disarray. We can't afford it. We need clear-headed, straight shooting. Now, I can be wrong, okay? Argue, facts, evidence, reason, show me that I'm wrong. But don't tell me to shut up.
Okay. I like the passion because I feel it myself, and I feel kind of justified and vindicated being up here and hearing other people go through similar things. I can tell you, and I tell people this all the time, it is a mind fill in the blank to be called a white supremacist by a white person. You know, it's really strange. I've learned to laugh at it, though, because that is absurd, right? And I have to laugh at it. That's what helped me deal with all this stuff. In fact, I've laughed at it to the point where I'm starting to enjoy it.